Hello, friends. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm your host, Zen Garcia.
Comfort and fear not. Welcome, friends. I'm your host, Zen Garcia. This is Secrets Revealed here on Truth Frequency Radio. And as always, I greatly appreciate all of you taking the time to join us in this live broadcast. I'm joined by my good friend Rob Skiba for our continued introspection of a chapter by chapter, verse by verse look at the Book of Enoch. Rob, are you there, brother?
I am here. How are you this evening, Zen?
I'm doing okay myself, but it seems like the last time we talked, everything has just gone crazy, huh?
Yeah, you might say that. A few things have changed since last
Right,
week. Namely, the conference is not happening now, at
right.
least not on the schedule that we had previously. We're working hard on trying to get everybody's schedules, including mine, coordinated for a reschedule. It looks like possibly in September.
Yes, we are looking at the first week in September, but again, everything's tentative because we want to make sure all of you, as far as the speakers, are on board. And I know a lot of people are disappointed, but I think that this is the wisest thing to do, certainly with all the uncertainty that is going on out there, and there are travel bans and restrictions and a lot of things that are closed, and so I think it was the wisest to kind of delay it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, man, the world's gone crazy. I don't even know what to say about it. It's just like it's been so crazy around here. They're shutting down everything worldwide. You know,
Right?
last week I was a lot more skeptical as to whether or not there actually is a virus. I still have my skepticism. Again, like I said last time, this is normal cold and flu season. Although
Right.
the symptoms that this supposedly has, this dry cough thing, is different from what you would have typically with a typical cold or a flu. Certainly, anytime I've had either of those, it's much more of a wet, phlegmy cough.
Hmm.
So this dry cough thing does appear to be something different. I'm still of the opinion that I don't necessarily think that it's 5G exclusively. I think that 5G is certainly contributing to the weakening of people's immune systems and lungs and their ability to carry oxygen and all that kind of stuff. So I think that that's certainly a massive contributor to whatever's going on. But I am now become a bit more convinced that there is something happening that's going around that is, you know, um, something that can be caught, so to speak. But
Right.
I'm personally not living in fear.
No.
I was thinking, I had a thought today, and now they have the celebrity endorsement. Actually, they had it last week, I think, even when we talked with Tom Hanks and I guess a few others. But I was wondering if anybody in the truther movement has it or is going to get it. That would be interesting. And
Hmm.
by that I'm talking about people probably like ourselves that are trying to look at the stuff from all different angles, not buying the mainstream media hype. If anybody in sort of our circle gets it, that's when I'm going to be like, oh, okay, something's going
Right.
on here. But I still don't know. I mean, I did post something not too long ago saying, hey, I've got 33, 34, something like that, thousand people that are so-called friends and followers on Facebook. Does anybody know anybody that has this?
Right.
And there were a few that did respond that they, knew somebody. Um, One of them was like, yeah, but they just got back from Mexico. And I'm like, well, I could think of a whole lot of things in Mexico that could give you a variety of symptoms, perhaps comparable. I don't know, man. Has your take on it changed?
Um, no, I still, again, with regard to myself, I don't know anybody personally affected. And with regard to all of the hype, um, there seems to be some substance to it. But, then again, with regard to a lot of the false flag events and attacks and things of that nature, even with the way that they started the Vietnam War with the Gulf of
Hmm.
Tonkin incident, that was even reported by the NSA to have never happened.
Hmm.
And so we really don't know for certain. There seems to be a lot of weirdness, especially with the 5G and how all that was initially released there in Wuhan on Halloween 2019, and then there are a lot of reports, but certainly there seems to be some kind of weirdness associated with it because there is extreme fear and panic, and the
Hmm.
governments of the world are certainly hyping it up as very serious. But then again, the whole thing with Orwell in 1984, and then the creation of an enemy that never even existed, and fighting wars that never even happened. I mean, who knows in this day and age, So
Well, yeah, and that book, I forget the title of it, the Dean Koontz, the author,
right. Hmm.
wrote, I think it was like in the 80s or something. Anyway, it was quite some time ago. Wrote this book, and I guess one of the main plot points in it was the releasing of some kind of virus, and it just so happened to be called the Wuhan 400.
Yeah,
And
right.
and as I understand it, this whole thing started with 400 people allegedly, getting it in Wuhan, and it kind of spreading out. And I've seen the videos out there where they're showing the news reports, and everything's 400, 400, 400, 400. So, there's definitely something going on behind the scenes. And I was talking with my friend Luke Isaac earlier today, and yeah, I'm gonna run this by you. I'd never heard this before. Well, actually, I'd heard of it, but I wasn't all that up on where the phrase comes from. But the Enochian Code. Are you familiar with that?
The Enochian Code, no.
Now,
Mm-mm.
the premise of that, in the context of the conversation I was having with him, was that you know the elite, the Luciferian elite, Freemasons and whatnot, they have to announce what they're going to do before they do it.
Yes,
And
uh-huh.
that's, I always explain that by Amos 3:7, I think is the address, if I remember correctly, where, God's speaking. He says, I don't do anything except I tell the prophets first
Right,
what I'm going to do.
right,
And so my take on it, because, we've always known that they put it in plain, everything's, in plain sight kind of thing, that, if God himself, if Yahuwah himself has created a law that he has bound himself by, then it's a universal law that everybody's going to have to abide by, in the spirit realm. So that was my take on it, is that, because of that law, the fallen ones have to follow the same principle. They have to announce it before they do it.
yes,
And we know from secret societies and symbolism and stuff like that that is certainly a mode of operation that they do. One of the reasons why they do symbolism, to conceal from those who don't have eyes to see, and to reveal for those who do have eyes to see. But he was talking about lots of stuff that I actually wasn't aware of, and one of them was supposedly an Illuminati card, the Illuminati card deck
right,
that
uh-huh,
supposedly has a picture of a guy, president looks just like Trump, and it's a judgment card, and the catchphrase on the judgment card is "enough is enough." And Luke was telling me that there's a video out there. I haven't seen it, but that apparently that's a phrase that Trump has said at a number of rallies, and what enough is enough, in the whole context, make America great again. Enough is enough.
uh-huh,
And yeah, I don't know what to make of any of that stuff. Like I told him, I said, you know what? I believe all the world's a stage, and they're following a really badly written script, with poor actors. But it is interesting how much has been telegraphed in
right,
advance, of what we're experiencing right now.
right. Yeah, I did a show even last night where I read from the Occult Technology of Power. Have you ever heard of that book?
Mm-mm, no.
It's a very quick read. It's very small, but it is a book that was written for the son of an industrialist who was part of the Illuminati bloodline, and coming to power and assuming his role and position that his father had in this cabal. And he has several of these instructors. like Carol Quigley, who wrote the Tragedy and Hope, that kind of Illuminati play-by-play that a lot of the presidents and elites read and study from. He was one of the professors that spoke about the occult power and technology behind elitist centralization, authority, divine right of kings, that kind of thing, and so it also speaks about the false left-right paradigm and how they control,
Yeah, both
both
sides.
sides, yeah,
Yeah,
and then
Republican and Democrat, doesn't matter.
yeah, exactly, yeah, and how they create the illusion of opposition in order to pin minorities against one another to slaughter the innocents. But I also read from the protocols and how they have specific, talking about the economic crisis, and it seems like the point that we are at now, that they've been planning for and orchestrating and bringing the fervor of this moment to life, and how it seems that we are wrapped up, caught up in it, whether true or not. The facade of reality, the propaganda, and the way that they control and utilize media and the
Mhm.
so-called free press um, to push the agenda, that is certainly at play here. And even we were talking about last time how even if this is a test run, it is certainly giving them an idea as
Yeah.
to what they can do, how things will unfold, and the kind of insanity that the public, as far as consumption and the buying up all the toilet paper and all of that. I mean, and then the whole thing of if they wanted to really push martial law and police state measures where they put troops on the street. I mean, then what kind of insanity? I mean, because I've watched also, there's a lot of the different Netflix programs, like they release Pandemic.
I know. That's what I was like. Oh, come on, man. I saw it just the other day when you signed in the night. It's like top 10, the
Right.
trending, what's trending right now. It's like, breakout, outbreak or whatever,
Yes. Hmm.
all these
Yeah,
pandemic movies.
Pandemic, Contagion. They also have this other one called Containment.
Hmm.
Um, and it's interesting that those particular movies, they speak about, the CDC as engineering, weaponizing
Hmm.
illness and disease, and then testing it, releasing it into the public, and how some of these they cordon off a whole area here in Atlanta, don't let anybody in or out. In this other movie called Contagion, they expressly, and this was back in the 90s that this one was released, and they speak about how it came from China and in this particular movie. And so a lot of things, even the Simpsons, so-called,
Oh, yeah.
the Osaka flu or whatever. I mean, it's crazy how much the Simpsons has telegraphed in the manner that, we're speaking about here, because it certainly seems like the elites are bound in principle to share and beforehand, things that they are doing, things that they are planning, and where they are wanting to take us. And so, yeah, that is certainly part of all of what's going on here. But like you, I'm trying not to be fearful, and I'm encouraging others to not be fearful as well, and to do what you can to protect yourself, but certainly to use prayer and as a tool for to fighting against this
Hmm.
agenda.
Yeah. In that regard, did you get a chance to see the link that I posted to Psalm 91 that
No.
my friend
Mm-mm.
actually, it's just a couple minutes long. Mind if I play it?
No, please go right ahead.
When I first moved to Texas in 2003, one of the first people that I met was John William Galt, and he's the voice of the movies. He's when you watch the previews or something, coming this fall, he's the guy. Like he knows everybody in the industry, and he's been many voices in lots of movies and trailers and whatnot. Anyway, he became a friend of mine, and he helped me with different things that I've done in ministry before. And when I was in the ministry, I said, "Hey, John, while you're here," he was helping me with another project. I said, "Can you read Psalm 91 for me?" He goes, "Yeah, man, sure, no problem." So I put it to music, but it was a tremendous encouragement to me at a time that I was going through. And for everybody out there that's in fear right now, it's going to sound kind of churchy right now, but I'm just going to say, close your eyes and just listen. I added some music to it, and it's a time to listen to what the scriptures have to say, specifically Psalm 91, and what the Father's heart is in all this. And there's some time afterwards so you can pray. Mm-hmm. And can you hear that first?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Do boost the volume if you can.
Okay.
Those who live in the shelter of the Most High will find rest in the shadow of the Almighty. This I declare of the Lord. He alone is my refuge, my place of safety. He is my God, and I am trusting him. For he will rescue you from every trap and protect you from the fatal plague. He will shield you with his wings. He will shelter you with his feathers. His faithful promises are your armor and protection. Do not be afraid of the terrors of the night, nor fear the dangers of the day, nor dread the plague that stalks in darkness, nor the disaster that strikes at midday. Though 1,000 fall at your side, though 10,000 are dying around you, these evils will not touch you, but you will see it with your eyes. You will see how the wicked are punished. If you make the Lord your refuge, if you make the Most High your shelter, no evil will conquer you. No plague will come near your dwelling. For he orders his angels to protect you wherever you go. They will hold you with their hands to keep you from striking your foot on a stone. You will trample down lions and poisonous snakes. You will crush fierce lions and serpents under your feet. The Lord says, I will rescue those who love me. I will protect those who trust in my name. When they call on me, I will answer. I will be with them in trouble. I will rescue them and honor them. I will satisfy them with a long life and give them my salvation.
That was excellent.
Yeah, boy, it brings a tear to my eye every time I listen to it.
Yeah, that was most excellent. That was perfect for this time and, for what people are going through. And I definitely think that word of encouragement was, the timing is so perfect and the words so perfect. So, yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, amen. Hopefully bless some people out there. It's, that's what we got to remember. And I was talking to Luke, and he said that Rick Hummer said to him that just remember, God protected Daniel from the lions, not the lion's den.
Right, right.
And I'm like, oh, that's pretty deep when you think about that. I mean, he still had to go in the lion's den, but he was protected from the lions in the lion's den.
Right.
And that's been my premise too, ever since I came off of the Preacher Rapture page, was that people will try to use examples of Enoch or Noah or Lot and Sodom and Gomorrah and all that and the Exodus as examples of rapture. I'm like, yeah, but in every single case, the bad guys got wiped out and the good guys stayed.
Right.
And Enoch's not a good example for rapture because he lived, he was there during the clash of the Titans,
right?
And everything that went down, and he was part of the judgment that took place, and he was raptured after that judgment, 700 years before the flood. Mm-hmm. So, and during the flood judgment, Noah and his family were rescued, but they were placed in an earthbound place of safety.
Yes.
While the bad guys were wiped away, Lot and his family were taken out and preserved in an earthbound place of safety, while Sodom and Gomorrah were wiped out. The Israelites were preserved if they had the blood on their doorposts. From they experienced 3 of the 10 plagues, but the worst of the worst, they were preserved in the midst of the tribulation.
Yes.
And then after the tribulation, they were escorted out. So, all those, I see precedents all over Scripture for preservation in time of tribulation judgment. Right. I don't know that this is a judgment. Some say that it is. I don't know. But regardless, the Psalm 91, it comes with prerequisites. If you will do this, I will do that.
Right.
And we're both of the same mindset. Let's get on God's page, so we get the if then benefits. And it is interesting to me that all this is happening just a few weeks away from Passover.
Right. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is interesting. Today is the vernal equinox, the first day of spring, and as you said, the former patriarchs and prophets of old, they were preserved through. It even reminds me of a story of a long time ago that I read this story about this woman that, like Susanna, was accused of being adulterous, but it was this guard who was trying to rape this particular woman, and he locked her into this tomb that was dark, and he was going to open it the very next day and accuse her, of this adultery. And the Most High, the night before, an angel came to her and led her out of this particular tomb and took her out the back way, so that when he opened and was making these accusations against her, the lady was already out with the crowd, and his accusations were baseless, and she was not convicted in that manner. But the Most High will protect and preserve his own, and does so, and there's numerous stories of such. And so I'm not one to be fearful of anything. I have faith in him, and I know that he can do whatever he chooses, and he can preserve anybody through anything, even the worst of judgments and torrents, even the deluge of Noah's day, which he said, please, Lord, if you're gonna make me go through that again, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, and somebody else posted on my Facebook, this story. It is kind of funny, actually, when you think about it. Like when Peter was, thrown in prison, and the saints got together and were praying for him.
Right.
And then he's released, and then, the angel comes and releases him, whatever. He goes to the house and knocks on the door, and like, who is it? He's like, it's Peter. He's like, no, you can't be Peter. We're praying for Peter. He's in jail. And then, like, they didn't believe it was him at first.
Right.
Hey, go figure. Your prayers actually being answered.
Right. It's so funny. No, it can't be you.
No, we're praying for him to get out of prison.
Well, brother, did you want to say anything else about the coronavirus or any other updates or anything before
Uh,
we move into the text?
I know we got like 2 minutes before to go to break.
Right.
I'm just like anybody else out there. My flesh is weak at times, and in my flesh, I look at things like the bank account and say,
Yeah, yes.
how are those good bills going to get paid this month? Especially for guys like us, like we don't have a full-time job. Content producing is our job.
Right.
And we rely on the good graces of other people. But if other people don't have jobs, they're not able to do much because they're busy trying to feed themselves. And so,
Right.
I'm looking at the bank going, okay, there's going to be a problem here.
Hmm.
But at the same time, I have numerous examples in my life that I can point to where he's carried us through situations that look completely hopeless. So, faith builds upon faith. So, anybody else out there in the same boat, you know what? He's got us covered. And
Yes.
and if there's any good in all that, we're all in the same boat. It's not like
Right.
I'm going, geez, how am I going to pay the mortgage this month? Uh, Everybody's in that boat right now. So that
Yes.
means the banks are going to have to,
Hey everyone, it's Chris Gio,
do
founder
something.
of Church
Accommodate.
Radio.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll be right back, everyone.
The mainstream media and establishment are running scared right now, and they've prominently featured
Everyday questions arise.
Are the stories in the Bible true?
What if I told you that there are hundreds of confirming witnesses?
which give intricate detail to the stories in the Bible.
Have you ever found yourself deep in the rabbit hole with questions that no one seemed to have the answers to? Join us every other Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time for our Ask Me Anything series with author and researcher Zen Garcia, as he sheds light on the mysteries which have us all searching together.
Hello, friends. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm your host, Zen Garcia.
All right, welcome back, everybody, and please do, everyone, pray for your neighbors and your families and your friends and everybody in the world, because even if the whole thing with the hype around the virus, if whether true or not, certainly people are struggling and being laid off, and restaurants not opening, and all these, large gatherings, and even sporting events and all that being shut down. That people are not working and are, because of that, finding this time certainly a trial that they have to go through. And so I do pray for everybody, and that we can all, make it through this, and that it passes quickly, and that nothing, as far as any kind of further insanity comes about from what's going on right now.
Amen.
All right, brother. Well, we had reached chapter 60 in the R.H. Charles.
Yeah.
Yeah, and 58. And did you want to review this chapter once more, or move on?
Yeah, probably a good idea, because it was
Yeah.
a long chapter. We didn't get to comment on it much. It has some very interesting monsters and all
Right.
kinds of stuff in there to talk about. Did you want to read it again by way of review, or just
Yeah,
talk about
let's do. Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's chapter 58 in the Lawrence. And let me see. Okay. In the 500th year, and in the 7th month, on the 14th day of the month of the lifetime of Enoch, in that parable I saw that the heaven of heavens shook, that it shook violently, and that the powers of the Most High and the angels, thousands of thousands and myriads of myriads, were agitated with great agitation. And when I looked, the Ancient of Days was sitting on the throne of his glory, while the angels and saints were standing around him. A great trembling came upon me, and terror seized me. My loins were bowed down and loosened. My reins were dissolved, and I fell upon my face. The holy Michael, another holy angel, one of the holy ones, was sent, who raised me up. And when he raised me, my spirit returned, for I was incapable of enduring this vision of violence, its agitation, and the concussion of heaven. Then holy Michael said to me, "Wherefore art thou disturbed at this vision? Hitherto has existed the day of mercy, and he has been merciful and long-suffering towards all who dwell upon the earth. But when the time shall come, then shall the power, the punishment, and the judgment take place, which the Lord of spirits has prepared for those who prostrate themselves to the judgment of righteousness, for those who adjure that judgment, and for those who take his name in vain. That day has been prepared for the elect as a day of covenant, and for sinners as a day of inquisition. In that day shall be distributed for food 2 monsters, a female monster whose name is Leviathan, dwelling in the depths of the sea above the springs of waters, and a male monster whose name is Behemoth, which possesses, moving on his breast, the invisible wilderness. His name was Dendayan, in the east of the garden, where the elect and the righteous will dwell, where he received it from my ancestor, who was man, from Adam, the first of men, whom the Lord of spirits made. Then I asked of another angel to show me the power of those monsters, how they became separated on the same day, one being in the depths of the sea, and one in the dry desert. And he said, "Thou, son of man, art here desirous of understanding secret things." And the angel of peace, who was with me, said, "These 2 monsters are by the power of God prepared to become food, that the punishment of God may not be in vain. Then shall children be slain with their mothers, and sons with their fathers. And when the punishment of the Lord of spirits shall continue, upon them shall it continue, that the punishment of the Lord of spirits may not take place in vain. After that, judgment shall exist with mercy and long suffering."
All right. And this is 60. A fragment of the Book of Noah. In the year 500, in the 7th month, on the 14th day of the month, in the life of Enoch, in that parable I saw how a mighty quaking made the heaven of heavens to quake, and the host of the Most High, and the angels 1,000 thousands, and 10,000 times 10,000, were disquieted with a great disquiet. And the head of days sat on the throne of his glory, and the angels and the righteous stood around him. And a great trembling seized me, and fear took hold of me, and my loins gave way and dissolved were my reins, and I fell upon my face. And Michael sent another angel from among the holy ones, and he raised me up. And when he had raised me up, my spirit returned, for I had not been able to endure the look of this host, and the commotion, and the quaking of the heaven. And Michael said unto me, Why art thou disquieted with such a vision? Until this day lasted the day of his mercy, and he hath been merciful, and long suffering towards those who dwell on the earth. And when the day, and the power, and the punishment, and the judgment come, which the Lord of spirits hath prepared for those who worship not the righteous law, and for those who deny the righteous judgment, and for those who take his name in vain, that day is prepared for the elect, a covenant, but for sinners an inquisition. When the punishment of the Lord of spirits shall rest upon them, it shall rest in order that the punishment of the Lord of spirits may not come in vain, and it shall slay the children with their mothers, and the children with their fathers. Afterwards the judgment shall take place according to his mercy and his patience. And on that day were two monsters parted, a female monster named Leviathan, to dwell in the abysses of the ocean over the fountains of the waters. But the male is named Behemoth, who occupied with his breast a waste wilderness named Dudain, on the east of the garden where the elect and righteous dwell, where my grandfather was taken up, the seventh from Adam, the first man, whom the Lord of spirits created. And I besought the other angel that he should show me the might of those monsters, how they were parted on one day, and cast the one into the abysses of the sea, and the other into the dry land of the wilderness. And he said to me, Thou, son of man, herein thou dost seek to know what is hidden. And the other angel who went with me and showed me what was hidden told me what is first and last in the heaven in the height, and beneath the earth in the depth, and at the ends of the heaven, and on the foundation of the heaven, and the chambers of the winds, and how the winds are divided, and how they are weighed, and how the portals of the winds are reckoned, each according to the power of the wind, the power of the lights of the moon, and according to the power that is fitting, and the divisions of the stars according to their names, and how all the divisions are divided, and the thunders according to the places where they fall, and all the divisions that are made among the lightnings, that it may lighten, and their hosts, that they may at once obey. For the thunder has places of rest which are assigned to it, while it is waiting for its peal. And the thunder and lightning are inseparable, and although not one and undivided, they both go together through the Spirit and separate not. For when the lightning lightens, the thunder utters its voice, and the Spirit enforces a pause during the peal, and divides equally between them, for the treasury of their peals is like the sand, and each one of them, as it peals, is held in with a bridle, and turned back by the power of the Spirit, and pushed forward according to the many quarters of the earth. And the spirit of the sea is masculine and strong, and according to the might of his strength, he draws it back with the rain, and in like manner it is driven forward and disperses amid all the mountains of the earth. And the spirit of the hoarfrost is his own angel, and the spirit of hell is a good angel, and the spirit of the snow has forsaken his chambers on account of his strength. There is a special spirit therein, and that which ascends from it is like smoke, and its name is frost, and the spirit of the mist is not united with them in their chambers. But it has a special chamber, for its course is glorious both in light and in darkness, and in winter and in summer, and in its chamber is an angel. And the spirit of the dew has its dwelling at the ends of the heaven, and is connected with the chambers of the rain, and its course is in winter and summer, and its cloud, and the clouds of the mist are connected, and the one gives to the other, and when the spirit of the rain goes forth from its chamber, the angels come and open the chamber, and lead it out, and when it is diffused over the whole earth, it unites with the water on the earth, and whensoever it unites with the water on the earth. For the waters are those who dwell on the earth, for they are nourishment for the earth from the Most High who is in heaven. Therefore there is a measure for the rain, and the angels take it in. Therefore there is a measure for the rain, and the angels take it in charge. And those things I saw towards the garden of the righteous, and the angel of peace, who was with me, said to me, these two monsters prepared comfortably to the greatness of God shall feed. And there's a dot 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 because it's unfinished from that point.
Well, that's bizarre. Well, I think we talked about this last week too. How
We did.
there's a different arrangement, and
Right.
yours is a lot longer. I think in the Lawrence 59 is where it gets into the some of the heavenly luminaries and all that kind of stuff.
Right, and the
the
rains and the
divisions.
hoarfrost and the elements and all that.
Wow, lots going on. Going back to the beginning of that, where it said the 500th year of Enoch's life. Now, Scripture says that he was raptured, or it doesn't say raptured, but I mean he was taken up. Enoch was
Right.
not, for God took him at 365. So, although it is interesting in the book of Joshua, chapter 3, which we've covered before in previous broadcasts, says that there was a time when Enoch went back and forth for sometimes one day out of a week, or a few days out of the week, or a few weeks out of the month, until it got to the point where he was spending like 99% of the time with God and 1% among men, and basically God's like, yeah, okay, you're closer to my house than yours, why don't you just come home with me, kind of thing.
Right.
So I guess I always took it to be, in the Joshua narrative anyway, that was what preceded his exit at 365.
Mm-hmm.
Based
the way I
on what
took it too.
was in Genesis, and I would still take it that way, but I don't know what to make of the 500, especially since we always kind of assume, and I guess it is an assumption, that God's outside of time, so he's normal aging isn't going to be accounted in heaven as it is on earth. So
Right.
admittedly that's an assumption, but what's your take on this 507th month, 500 years?
Well, certainly I agree with you that we see in the narrative of Jasher about the life of Enoch that he was taken up in that 365th year. And then as far as, the 500 years, why would they keep account if he is no longer aging and no longer susceptible to the physical laws that our bodies and the aging and the dying? Because certainly if he were to continue in years, he would have already succumbed to death, because there was a 1,000-year limit according to the early patriarchs in their lifespan. And I believe that one of the reasons why Enoch and Elijah are selected to be, and I believe them to be, the witnesses of Revelation 11 at the end of days, is because they did not die and did not succumb to death. And one was married and the other wasn't. And so the distinction that is connected uh, to them, that, because of their being spared from death, that at the end of days they will be, according to the narrative, murdered by Antichrist and left in the streets of Jerusalem for 3.5 days before being resurrected, and then used as another testament against the Antichrist, that he is the false Messiah, and that one of the things of their murder by him there in the streets is indicative of that, and is an indicator for those that are living in that time that indeed he is, the false Christ.
In the Charles translation, and I'd have to go look up the index or whatever, it has these two cross symbols, one on either side of Enoch. And usually that's an indicator of like a scribal insertion or something. It's something of that warrants some sort of a footnote.
Right.
So it's 500 year of Enoch, and I don't see what that would be a reference to. What if there is a footnote?
Right. Yeah, it would be interesting to see if there is something.
Lawrence doesn't have that. This is one of those I just don't have an answer for.
Right. Right.
500th, unless we are to just say, well, maybe there is an accounting of time, in heaven, or at least for Enoch.
Even though there's no aging.
Yeah, fair enough. Or our last, maybe, I'm just throwing this out there. Maybe, Enoch, there are other texts that I don't necessarily endorse that talk about Enoch's transformation.
Mm-hmm.
That maybe he continued to experience earthly time for a period while he was having these heavenly interactions.
Possibly.
I don't know. I mean, I think no matter what we say at this point, it'd be pure speculation. I don't think we could, unless you find another text somewhere else that has something to say, I don't think we could justify anything, as definitive. Just interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we got this fierce judgment taking place. Until this, so do you think this judgment, because we've already covered the flood in previous chapters, do you think that this is now, are we still in a flood or time of Noah time frame, or have we jumped the narrative to end times at this point?
Yeah, I think it is still with the flood of narrative. Leading up to the flood, but we do see quickly a transition into what is the end of days, I believe. But it seems.
But in what context would you say then that the behemoth and Leviathan are showing up? Is this the behemoth that God shows Job in the post-flood context? Or is this a end times behemoth that's going to show?
Yeah, I think that the judgments against Behemoth and Leviathan are certainly end of days and not specific to the deluge. That is that these two great monsters will be made for food, and that the bringing forth of them will shock all those that are alive, and just show the grandiose nature of God and his ability and his power, that these two monsters could even exist here on the earth, and that they would be preserved for judgment like that at the end of days, and that God would reveal them in this manner to all of us. I think it would be shocking, because certainly these two monsters are have to be massive in scope, massive in scale, and beyond imagination.
Back in the day, Kent Hovind came through town and was doing his creation series in churches and stuff. It was his belief that in Job, when it's talking about Behemoth, and the description certainly seems to fit, behold now Behemoth, and his tail moves like a cedar tree, and his strength is in his loins, and all that. That is a really good description of a Apatosaurus, sauropod class dinosaur type of thing.
Right.
Long neck, long tail, so-called brontosaurus. And he believed that Leviathan was a reference to T-Rex. I don't buy that. I think the other one is a good example. I don't think I buy the Leviathan being T-Rex, but in any case, Job is witnessing these things too. So now, if we're to accept that Enoch is a pre-flood text, these creatures, have they been around multiple times before? Were they around before the flood for people to recognize when Enoch is talking about this? Where they certainly were around post-flood, because we've got Job, or God talking to Job, saying, hey, look at that. That's a chief of my ways. Like, he's bragging on that thing. Of course, modern English translations try to change it to hippo or elephant. And I love depicting that in my PowerPoint presentations. Go like, you ever see the tail of a hippo? Or an elephant? This tiny little wispy thing back there, hardly, moves like a cedar tree. But clearly, it was visible or knowable to Job in a post-flood context.
Yes.
And the question would be, were there a race of these things, or a species, I should say, of these things walking around that have since become extinct? And if it would be the so-called dinosaur hypothesis, then you could go, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I don't know. Are you aware of other texts that go into any more detail about Behemoth and Leviathan?
There's a mention here in the Legends of the Jews on the 5th day, and I can read it. There's mention of both Behemoth and Leviathan, and they seem to be singular creatures, not of a species, but here it says the 5th day. On the 5th day of creation, God took fire and water, and out of these two elements he made the fishes of the sea. The animals in the water are much more numerous than those on land. For every species on land, excepting only the weasel, there is a corresponding species in the water, and besides there are many found only in the water. The ruler over this... Are we at break?
Looks like we got 2 minutes, maybe.
Oh, okay, 2 minutes, okay. The ruler over the sea animals is Leviathan. With all the other fishes, he was made on the 5th day. Originally, he was created male and female like all the other animals, but when it appeared that a pair of these monsters might annihilate the whole earth with their united strength, God killed the female. So enormous is Leviathan that to quench his thirst, he needs all the water that flows from the Jordan into the sea. His food consists of the fish which go between his jaws of their own accord. And when he is hungry, a hot breath blows from his nostrils, and it makes the waters of the great sea seething hot. Formidable though Behemoth, the other monster, is, he feels insecure until he is certain that Leviathan has satisfied his thirst. The only thing that can keep him in check is the stickleback, a little fish which was created for the purpose and of which he stands in great awe. But Leviathan is more than merely large and strong. He is wonderfully made besides. His fins radiate brilliant light. The very sun is obscured by it, and also his eyes shed such splendor that frequently the sea is illuminated suddenly by it. I'll finish when we come back from... Oh, we still got 1 minute. All right, I'll just finish this paragraph. No wonder that this marvelous beast is the plaything of God in whom he takes his pastime. There is but one thing that makes Leviathan repulsive, his foul smell, which is so strong that if it penetrated thither, it would render paradise itself an impossible abode. There's still another paragraph, so I'll read it when we come back from break. But there are other texts also that make mention of Leviathan and Behemoth, but one I think equates Leviathan with like Satan, but yeah. All right, we will be right back, everyone.
Every day, questions arise.
Are the stories in the Bible true?
What if I told you that there are hundreds of confirming witnesses?
which give intricate detail to the stories in the Bible.
Have you ever found yourself deep in the rabbit hole with questions that no one seemed to have the answers to? Join us every other Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time for our Ask Me Anything series with author and researcher Zen Garcia, as he sheds light on the mysteries which have us all searching together. Many truth seekers are constantly studying alone. But there is a place where we can come together. The Digital Readers Club is our online ecclesia meant for those who've forsaken churchianity, but still want the closeness of a family to study with. Join us every Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time to put together the puzzle pieces of truth scattered throughout the ancient scriptures.
Ready for second hour. I'm your host, Zen Garcia. This is Secrets Revealed here on Truth Frequency Radio, and we are continuing our ongoing introspection of the Book of Enoch, looking through chapter 60 right now and speaking about the Leviathan and the Behemoth. This last paragraph in the Legends of the Jews says this about Leviathan. The real purpose of Leviathan is to be served up as a dainty to the pious in the world to come. The female was put into brine as soon as she was killed to be preserved against the time when her flesh will be needed. The male is destined to offer a delectable sight to all beholders before he is consumed. When his last hour arrives, God will summon the angel to enter into combat with the monster. But no sooner will Leviathan cast his glance at them that they will flee in fear and dismay from the field of battle. They will return to the charge with swords, but in vain, for his scales can turn back steel like straw. They will be equally unsuccessful when they attempt to kill him by throwing darts and shining stones. Such missiles will rebound without leaving the least impression on his body. Disheartened, the angels will give up the combat, and God will command Leviathan and Behemoth to enter into a duel with each other. The issue will be that both will drop dead, Behemoth slaughtered by a blow of Leviathan's fins, and Leviathan killed by a lash of Behemoth's tail. From the skin of Leviathan, God will construct tents to shelter companies of the pious while they enjoy the dishes made of his flesh. The amount assigned to each of the pious will be in proportion to his deserts, and none will envy or begrudge the other his better share. What is left of Leviathan's skin will be stretched out over Jerusalem as a canopy, and the light streaming from it will illumine the whole world, and what is left of his flesh after the pious have appeased their appetite will be distributed among the rest of men to carry on traffic therewith. Kind of strange, but that's what it says.
Yeah. One part of it, unless I heard it wrong, it almost sounded like it's been preserved somewhere.
Yeah, the female. Yeah, because it says that, with regard to Leviathan, that two could not exist together without destroying the world, or that's what it said in the previous chapter. So one was killed and then preserved in brine, and then the other, the male, was left alive.
Wow. Let me read the from the Bible here. Hang on a second. So during the break, I looked up Behemoth. Behemoth is only mentioned once in the King James Bible, at least when I did a search anyway. Are you aware of any other reference other than Job 40 in the Bible?
No.
Job 40, behold now Behemoth, which I made with thee, he eateth grass as an ox. Lo now his strength is in his loins, and his force is in the navel of his belly. He moveth his tail like a cedar, the sinews of his stones are wrapped together. His bones are as strong pieces of brass, his bones are like bars of iron. He is the chief of the ways of God. He that made him can make his sword to approach unto him. Surely the mountains bring him forth food, where all the beasts of the field play. He lieth under the shady trees, in the covert of the reeds and fens. The shady trees cover him with their shadow. The willows of the brook compass him about. Behold, he drinketh up a river, and hasteth not. He trusteth that he can draw up Jordan into his mouth. He taketh it with his eyes. His nose pierces through snares. So you get this one reference to Behemoth, but if you look up Leviathan, he shows up 4 times, at least in the King James Bible search. Job 41:1, canst thou draw out Leviathan with a hook, or his tongue with a cord, which thou lettest down? I'll read the rest of, there's only a few verses. Job 41, canst thou put a hook into his nose, or bore his jaw through with a thorn? Will he make any supplications unto thee? Will he speak soft words unto thee? Will he make a covenant with thee? Wilt thou take him for a servant forever? Wilt thou play with him as with a bird, or wilt thou bind him for thy maidens? Shall the companions make a banquet of him? Shall they part him among the merchants? Canst thou fill his skin with barbed irons, or his head with fish spears? Lay thine hand upon him, remember the battle, do no more. Behold, the hope of him is in vain. Shall not one be cast down even at the sight of him? None is so fierce that dare stir him up. Who then is able to stand before me? Interesting, though, in the Job narrative, they're both males.
As far as the creatures?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, both are described with male personal pronouns. We don't get that in Enoch, though. We get a male and female, right? And in the was it the Legend of the Jews that you just read, or?
Yeah, in the Legends of the Jews, it says that there were two Leviathan, male and female, and the female is killed and preserved in the brine.
Yeah, the brine. What is that?
I don't know, maybe salt water, or I'm not sure.
Well, it makes you wonder if it's maybe submerged under something.
Right.
So, actually, some of the descriptions make it sound like Godzilla.
Right.
The fins lighting up, and fire. When I don't picture T-Rex so much as I picture Godzilla when I'm listening to it.
Right.
It comes up in the Psalms twice. Psalm 74:14. Thou breakest the heads of Leviathan. So it's heads of Leviathan. So in that case, it sounds sort of like the Hydra.
Right. Yeah. Or maybe even the two, like the male and the female. If it's like individual. But it could be heads, like multiple from one as well.
Yeah, I didn't think of it. If it's a male and female, and Leviathan is just a species name. Like the heads of a lion, or something. Lion being a whole class of animal.
Yeah. Right.
That might be a way to look at it. Psalm 104 is 26. There go the ships. There is that Leviathan whom thou hast made to play therein. And the context is the ocean. And Isaiah 27:1. In that day, the Lord with his sword and great strong sword shall punish Leviathan, the piercing serpent, even Leviathan, that crooked serpent, and he shall slay the dragon that is in the sea.
And I always took, that one for like a reference to Satan in some manner, but.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was frantically trying to find it on Google Earth. I had to redo my whole computer system not too long ago, so I don't have all the bookmarks and stuff saved that I used to have. And I was trying to find what is the name of the current day name of Mount Sinai. It's like Jabal El something or another. Are you familiar with that? The Jabal El Waz or something like that. I forget. There's the Arabic name for Mount Sinai now.
Right.
That you can find on Google. Maybe in the next break I can see if I can find it. But if you're able to find Mount Sinai on Google Earth, the one that's in Saudi Arabia. Let me see if I can pull out here. If you're looking straight down on the mountain, to the right of that mountain, there's an area where you can easily imagine, roughly 2 million Israelites, camping out as Moses is up doing his thing, and there's even places where people have taken pictures of an altar that has inscriptions of like a golden calf and a bunch of stuff that goes directly tied to the Exodus.
Right.
So many people have looked at that and said this has to be the site. I mean, and it has all of the. And even not too far away from that is a large rock that's split right down the middle, and there's evidence of massive erosion that came from that rock and eroded the area around it. So, I mean, just lots of very interesting topography on that area. But if you're looking right down on top of Mount Sinai in that area, and then go to the west of it, in the valley out to the west of the mountain, there is, at least in the older versions of Google Earth, I know they update stuff a lot all the time. But in the older version of Google Earth, it looked very much like a very large, like huge serpent remains of some sort of a serpentine-like scaled creature, like the remains of it in the sand. Have you ever seen that?
No, I haven't. Interesting. There's a lot of that kind of stuff, the guy from Mud Fossils, he does a lot of that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's certainly an interesting aspect of the end times. Not many people talk about.
Right.
The return of the Behemoth and Leviathan, and that they are specifically there for food. So
preserved for meal, which is interesting. But yeah.
So much for the vegans and the vegetarians.
Yeah, right.
At least in the Book of Enoch, anyway. But this thing would have to be really big to feed as many people as it seems to indicate that it's going to. So then the Charles version spins off into all kinds of stuff about the luminaries and portals and stars and thunders and places and stuff like that. Anything you want to comment in that regard?
Yeah, I think like in the Book of Jubilees, it speaks of these elements as being angels as well, that they are spirits, and in similarity to what we see of the stars as the celestial hosts, that the luminaries are also said to be angelic entities, celestial beings in some manner. And it's here we see that even the snow and the rain and the dew and those things, whether they are celestial themselves or just controlled by a certain spiritual entity, certainly the portals and their occurrence is ordained by intelligent capacity, that God instructs when the lightning and the rain and the dew and all these different things are supposed to come and to nourish the earth. And we see that the whole thing of the way that condensation works with the rain being evaporated by the sun's light, and how even the storms, the winds, and the pressure systems, the high and low pressure systems, they follow the movement of the sun as it does this dance back and forth between the Tropic Capricorn and the Tropic of Cancer. Like today, it is directly above the equator for the autumnal equinox, dividing the day equally into 11.999 hours, and same for night. And it spends this one day crossing the equator, and then also when it reaches the two extremes of the Tropic of Capricorn and the Tropic of Cancer for the longest day of summer and also a winter, that it takes a full day for it to reach this point and then to reverse course and begin moving back in the opposite direction. And so these kind of things, as we move into the book on the courses of the heavenly luminaries, they will become, as we decipher those chapters and examine the text within those particular chapters, this will become very clear. And so, like the Bible, that in Psalms 19, it dictates that it is the sun which is moving like the bridegroom, that, and it is not the earth. The earth is fixed, stationary, and unmoving. And we just released a T-shirt, the flat earther, and it's a definition of the flat earther as one who knows that that the earth is stationary and that water cannot adhere to a ball. And with the geocentrics, it's that that it is the luminaries, that the earth is motionless, and it is the luminaries which move in circle around Polaris and not the sun. And so, these kind of things are most certainly affirmed in the Book of Enoch. And
yeah. While you were talking, I I did find it. So for those on YouTube, watching on YouTube, are you able to see? Are you able to see the feed?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So zooming out here a bit, is Jabal al-Laz. Jabal al-Laz is the general area where the Mount Sinai is believed to be, and so the Gulf of Aqaba. I think this one of these areas here. I think it was right here is where the Pillars of Solomon are supposedly that mark the crossing.
Right. Yes.
Where the Israelites crossed and
Mm-hmm.
wandered around the wilderness. You can maybe look at some of the lowland areas that they might have taken, and so. And this mountain range right here, the whole top of it's like all black. It's like scorched.
Right. Scorched,
Which is
yes.
really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Some of these pictures, that one doesn't really show. Oh, this one right here, golden calf altar. So there's, if you really get down into it, you can a lot of times find. There used to be a lot more pictures. They must have scrubbed them. This used to be all, they have the little icon for pictures, that you can click on. This used to be just all pictures. It's must have scrubbed it. So here we have, the mountain where Moses is believed to have gotten the 10 Commandments. The area over here, large area where easily you can imagine 2 million Israelites congregated. The golden calf incident here. So if you're looking down on the mountain range, just off to the west of it, and they even have it marked. There's a little square there. I didn't put that square there. Somebody else did, but I just marked it for myself. Let me see if I can adjust the angle here a bit. Leviathan. This strange kind of long snake-looking thing with like ribs, and it's even labeled Leviathan on Google Earth.
Right on.
The little mark that I have with the thumbtack, I made that, but this is on Google Earth, Leviathan.
Cool.
So, kind of bizarre. I don't know.
Definitely. Yeah, because why would they label that and mark it like that?
Yeah, it's pretty huge. It's pretty. It reminds me, when I look at this, it reminds me of the scene in Star Wars when the droids first landed on Tatooine, and 3PO doesn't want to go with R2-D2. He's like, go that way. It's much too rocky. I'm not going that way. And next thing you know, he's coming up over a dune, and there's this long skeletal, like, remains of something, and he's like, oh, it's all his fault. It's always kind of reminded me of that, but it is interesting that it's even recognized as Leviathan on Google Earth, so who knows?
Yeah.
It would be interested I'd be interested to know if there's Arabic lore in that region, to justify that, people thinking that.
Yeah, because a lot of times there is that kind of thing, and that's why you find marked on maps or in different locations, the lore seems to attribute in some manner the reason for the names of the topography in those particular areas.
Mm-hmm. Somebody in the chat room said Zen has talked about the United States and the UK being these two monsters. Can you remind him to recap on that?
The United States and the UK.
Yeah.
I'm not certain as to what they might be talking about. Certainly, I did talk about the UK and the United States as being aspects of Mystery Babylon, and that the U.S. would be the military arm, and then the UK, London, would be the financial arm, and then the Vatican would be the spiritual, the religious aspect of the Mystery Babylon. But I'm not certain that I ever attributed them with being Leviathan and Behemoth. Yeah.
All right. Let's see. We got 7 minutes or so before break.
Yeah. Want to catch one more chapter?
Yeah. I don't really think I need to read the same thing in Charles of the Luminaries. There's a whole lot of difference there, so we can kind of advance past that. Okay, that would have been 59 in the Lawrence. About the moon's light and the sea and all that. Okay, can we go? Okay, so chapter 60. Oops, I gotta change that over so we can see. There we go. Chapter 60 in the Lawrence translation. In those days I beheld long ropes given to those angels who took to their wings and fled, advancing towards the north. And I inquired of the angels, saying, wherefore have they taken those long ropes and gone forth? He said, they are gone forth to measure. The angel who proceeded with me said, these are the measures of the righteous, and cords shall the righteous bring, that they may trust in the name of the Lord of spirits forever and ever. The elect shall begin to dwell with the elect. And these are the measures which shall be given to faith, and which shall strengthen the words of righteousness. These measures shall reveal all the secrets in the depth of the earth. And it shall be that those who have been destroyed in the desert, and who have been devoured by the fish of the sea and by wild beasts shall return and trust in the day of the elect one. For none shall perish in the presence of the Lord of spirits, nor shall any be capable of perishing. Then they received the commandment, all who were in the heavens above, to whom a combined power, voice, and splendor like fire were given. And first, with their voice, they blessed him, they exalted him, they glorified him with wisdom, and ascribed to him wisdom with the word and with the breath of life. Then the Lord of spirits, seated upon the throne of his glory, the elect one, who shall judge all the works of the holy in heaven above, and in balance shall he weigh their actions. And when he shall lift up his countenance to judge their secret ways in the word of the name of the Lord of spirits, and their progress in the path of the righteous judgment of God Most High, they shall all speak with united voice, and bless, glorify, exalt, and praise in the name of the Lord of spirits. He shall call to every power of the heavens, to all the holy above, and to the power of God, the cherubim, the seraphim, the ophanim, all the angels of power, and all the angels of the Lord's, namely of the elect one, and of the power and of the other power, who was upon earth over the water on that day. I would assume that's the Holy Spirit. Mm-hmm. Shall raise their united voice, shall bless, glorify, praise, and exalt with the spirit of faith, with the spirit of wisdom and patience, with the spirit of mercy, with the spirit of judgment and peace, and with the spirit of benevolence. All shall say with united voice, blessed is he, and the name of the Lord of spirits shall be blessed forever and forever. Who sleep not shall bless it in the heaven above. All the holy in heaven shall bless it. All the elect who dwell in the garden of life, and every spirit of light who is capable of blessing, glorifying, exalting, and praising thy holy name. And every mortal man, more than the powers of heaven, shall glorify and bless thy name forever and ever. For great is the mercy of the Lord of spirits, long-suffering is he, and all his works, all his power. Great as are the things which he has done, has he revealed to the saints and to the elect in the name of the Lord of spirits.
Yeah, certainly, I think this is the end of days, when all the dead are raised up. And so we see the correlation of Revelation and many of the other texts that speak about the end of days, that this is in line with that. So,
yeah. So that's 60 in mine. That would be, where is that in you? 61?
Mm-hmm. Yep, 61. And I'll read just a little bit before we go to break. Yep. And I saw in those days how long cords were given to those angels, and they took to themselves wings and flew, and they went towards the north. And I asked the angel, saying unto him, why have those angels taken these cords and gone off? And he said unto me, they have gone to measure. And the angel who went with me said unto me, these shall bring the measures of the righteous, and the ropes of the righteous to the righteous, that they may stay themselves on the name of the Lord of spirits forever and ever. The elect shall begin to dwell with the elect, and those are the measures which shall be given to faith, and which shall strengthen righteousness. And these measures shall reveal all the secrets of the depths of the earth. And those who have been destroyed by the desert, and those who have been devoured by the beast, and those who have been devoured by the fish of the sea, that they may return and stay themselves on the day of the elect one. For none shall be destroyed before the Lord of spirits, and none can be destroyed. And all who dwell above in the heaven received a command and power and one voice and one light, like unto fire. And that one, with their first words, they blessed and extolled and lauded with wisdom. And they were wise in utterance and in the spirit of life. And the Lord of spirits placed the elect one on the throne of glory, and he shall judge all the works of the holy above in the heaven, and in the balance shall their deeds be weighed. And when he shall lift up his countenance to judge their secret ways according to the word of the name of the Lord of spirits. And all right, we'll pick it up on the other side. We'll be right back for final segment, everyone.
Every day, questions arise.
Are the stories in the Bible true?
What if I told you that there are hundreds of confirming witnesses?
which give intricate detail to the stories in the Bible.
Have you ever found yourself deep in the rabbit hole with questions that no one seemed to have the answers to? Join us every other Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time for our Ask Me Anything series with author and researcher Zen Garcia, as he sheds light on the mysteries which have us all searching together. Many truth seekers are constantly studying alone. But there is a place where we can come together. The Digital Readers Club is our online ecclesia meant for those who've forsaken churchianity, but still want the closeness of a family to study with. Join us every Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time to put together the puzzle pieces of truth scattered throughout the ancient scriptures.
All right, welcome back, everybody, for final portion. The show always seems to go very quickly, but I'll continue reading through this particular chapter.
Begin
And there,
verse 9.
yep. And when he shall lift up his countenance to judge their secret ways, according to the word of the name of the Lord of spirits, and their path to the way of the righteous judgment of the Lord of spirits, then shall they all with one voice speak and bless and glorify and extol and sanctify the name of the Lord of spirits. And he will summon all the hosts of the heavens, and all the holy ones above, and the hosts of God, the cherubim, seraphim, and Ophanim, and all the angels of power, and all the angels of principalities, and the elect one, and the other powers on the earth and over the water. On that day shall raise one voice, and bless and glorify and exalt in the spirit of faith, and in the spirit of wisdom, and in the spirit of patience, and in the spirit of mercy, and in the spirit of judgment and of peace, and in the spirit of goodness, and shall all say with one voice, Blessed is he, and may the name of the Lord of spirits be blessed forever and ever. All who sleep not above in heaven shall bless him. All the holy ones who are in heaven shall bless him, and all the elect who dwell in the garden of life, and every spirit of light who is able to bless and glorify and extol and hallow thy blessed name. And all flesh shall beyond measure glorify and bless thy name forever and ever. For great is the mercy of the Lord of spirits, and he is long suffering. And all his works and all that he has created, he has revealed to the righteous and elect in the name of the Lord of spirits.
Interesting differences, not just in the way that they counted the verses, but some of the things that are in them. Let me go back. In the Lawrence, it was in verse. Where did it go? It was talking about the different onim or whatever.
Yeah, the Ophanim and cherubims.
Oh, was it 60? Did I just read?
It is 10. Yeah, 61 is where I'm at, verse 10.
Okay. So, verse in the Lawrence translation, it's in 60, and the verse number is 13. He shall call to every power of the heavens, to all the holy above, and to the power of God, the cherubim, the seraphim, and Ophanim. I'm not sure. Maybe, I can't think of any references. Is the Ophanim mentioned in the canonized text? I know the cherubim are and seraphim are. I'm not familiar with any reference
believe,
in the canonized text.
I'm not positive, but I believe so. I know that they're mentioned somewhere. I read so many texts I can't
it's probably all
attribute it. Yeah, right. If it's in the canonical material or not, but
so it didn't show up on Bible Hub, at least not by the Lawrence spelling. We try it with the Charles spelling because it does spell it differently. On BibleHub.com, no, it doesn't show up in either one. So at least not by either of those spellings. I'm not familiar with that particular class. I'm familiar, certainly, of the descriptions that were given in the canonical text for the cherubim and the seraphim. Are you aware of a description anywhere for the Ophanim?
Yes, but I can't exactly place where that description would be.
Oh, come on, man. You don't have it off the top of your head.
Right, yeah, exactly.
I can't work under these conditions. I'm out of here.
Right. I'm trying to remember, but I believe they are like a type of vehicle in some manner.
Let me do a quick search on that then. Let me see.
Yeah, it says in the Wikipedia wheels, and that's what I was wondering if it was in Ezekiel, if it was mentioned, but
wheels, yeah. Maybe that's a Hebrew word. Maybe it actually is in the Hebrew, well, you got Merkaba,
Yes, the Merkaba. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
um, Ophanim, also Gagalim, spheres, wheels, whirlwinds. Okay, so the Ophanim, this is on Wikipedia, refer to the wheels seen in Ezekiel's vision of the chariot, the Merkaba. Maybe that's where I heard of it. It's interesting. You listen to some of these guys like Eric von Daniken, and they love quoting the Bible. Of course, they take it and spin it off into all kinds of crazy ways.
Ancient aliens, right?
Yeah, the ancient alien stuff. See, these are orbs. Maybe that's where I've heard it, because I'm pretty sure that they probably really lat, because they love Ezekiel, especially von Daniken. He's like all over. I don't know if you've ever heard his take on it, but wow, I'm like, dude, seriously? Of course, that whole crowd eats it up like, candy.
Oh, yeah. And they all agree with one another. It's not angels. They're talking about flesh and blood extraterrestrials.
Yeah. No, it says the first book of Enoch, chapter 71, verse 7, it looks like 71.7, seems to imply that the Ophanim are equated to the thrones in Christianity when it lists them all together. So the idea is that the thrones are, on wheels. So these must be the wheels within the wheels with all the eyes and
right,
all that kind of stuff.
I take that particular passage and what Ezekiel is describing. It to me is connected to what we see in the time-lapse photography. The star trails over the course of an evening as they move around Polaris, because they are wheels within wheels, because you see the circles within the circles within the circles within the circles. And so that to me is God showing Ezekiel the movement of the celestials and the hosts over the course of the evening, and how they are circling around Polaris in the same manner that we have now all come to understand that, the luminaries are moving in circle around Polaris and not that of the sun. And the wheels within the wheels would be equated to what we see in that time-lapse photography, this circles within circles within circles, in my opinion, anyways.
Well, I mean, circles, wheels, yeah. Maybe there's something to it. So this is verse 10 in the Charles. It's 13 in the Lawrence. The cherubic, seraphim, Ophanim, and all the angels of power. So these might be the archangels, and all the angels of principalities and the elect one. And in the Charles it says, and other powers on the earth and over the water. But in the Lawrence it says all the angels of power and all the angels of the Lords, namely the elect one, and of the other power, capital P, who was upon earth over the water on that day. So in the Lawrence one, it certainly appears to be, where we look in Genesis, in the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters.
Right.
That it seems to be specifically naming out the Holy Spirit here.
Right.
As a power. That's interesting. There's a lot going on in that verse.
And then how we equate that all the luminaries and the celestials, as far as the seraphim, cherubim, and all them, that they are encircling the throne of God. That there are verses that also describe that, because we see in the same manner of the wheels within the wheels and the movements, that exact thing is happening as well. That they are all surrounding and bowing down, because it is my belief that his throne is within the center of the right above Polaris, that his throne is in the center, and everything, all the luminaries are in humbled worship before him, and all bowed before him, and all moving in circle around him. And that would also explain what we see with regard to all that.
Yeah. We're almost back in sync. You are going to be in chapter 62 next. I'm going to be in chapter 61. Let me see how long this one is. It's 18 verses. Yeah, we got time.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Lawrence chapter 61. Thus the Lord commanded the kings, the princes, the exalted, and those who dwell on earth, saying, open your eyes and lift up your horns, if you are capable of comprehending the elect one. Man, I really wonder what these other people think. The Dave Murphys of the world. People who love the Book of Enoch, but who's this elect one? The Lord of Spirits sat upon the throne of it. Like, I was aware of the elect one being in the Book of Enoch, but I wasn't aware of the elect one being this much. Like, for some reason I thought it was like, maybe 5 chapters or something, but it seems like he's all over the place here.
Right. Yeah, like 40 to
figure.
60. Yeah. Huge amount.
Yeah, Son of Man and elect one. Right. Son of Man was what I seem to remember in my previous readings of the Book of Enoch standing out more, but now it's the elect one that I see standing out more. The Lord of Spirits sat upon the throne of his glory. The spirit of righteousness was poured out over him. The word of his mouth shall destroy all the sinners and all the ungodly who shall perish at his presence. In that day shall all the kings, the princes, the exalted, and those who possess the earth stand up, behold, and perceive that he is sitting on the throne of his glory, that before him the saints shall be judged in righteousness, and that nothing shall be spoken before him shall be spoken in vain. Trouble shall come upon them as upon a woman in travail, whose labor is severe when her child comes to the mouth of the womb, and she finds it difficult to bring forth. One portion of them shall look upon another. They shall be astounded and shall humble their countenance. And trouble shall seize them when they shall behold the Son of Woman sitting upon the throne of his glory. Then shall the kings and the princes and all who possess the earth glorify him who has dominion over all things, him who was concealed, for from the beginning the Son of Man existed in secret, whom the Most High preserved in the presence of his power and revealed to the elect. I feel a Facebook post coming on.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
He shall sow the congregation of the saints and of the elect, and all the elect shall stand before him in that day. And the kings, the princes, the exalted, and those who rule over the earth shall fall down on their faces before him and worship him. They shall fix their hopes on this Son of Man, shall pray to him and petition him for mercy. Then shall the Lord of Spirits hasten to expel them from his presence. Their faces shall be full of confusion, and their faces shall darkness cover. The angels shall take them to punishment, that vengeance may be inflicted on those who have oppressed his children and his elect, and they shall become an example to the saints and to his elect. Through them shall these be made joyful, for the anger of the Lord of Spirits shall rest upon them. Then the sword of the Spirit of the Lord, of Spirits, shall be drunk with their blood. But the saints and elect shall be safe in that day, nor the face of the sinners and the ungodly shall they thenceforwards behold. The Lord of Spirits shall remain over them, and this Son of Man shall they dwell, and with the Son of Man shall they dwell, eat, lie down, and rise up forever and ever. The saints and the elect have arisen from the earth, have left off to depress their countenances, and have been clothed with the garment of life. That garment of life is with the Lord of Spirits, in whose presence your garment shall not wax old, nor shall your glory diminish.
Awesome. Okay, yeah, definitely. Facebook post, Son of Man, the elect one, yeah.
I feel it coming on, man.
All right, 62. And thus the Lord commanded the kings and the mighty, and the exalted, and those who dwell on the earth, and said, open your eyes and lift up your horns if you are able to recognize the elect one. And the Lord of Spirits seated him on the throne of his glory, and the spirit of righteousness was poured out upon him. And the word of his mouth slays all the sinners, and all the unrighteous are destroyed from before his face. And there shall stand up in that day all the kings and the mighty, and the exalted, and those who hold the earth. And they shall see and recognize how he sits on the throne of his glory. And righteousness is judged before him, and no lying word is spoken before him. Then shall pain come upon them as on a woman in travail, and she has pain in bringing forth, when her child enters the mouth of the womb, and she has pain in bringing forth. And one portion of them shall look on the other, and they shall be terrified, and they shall be downcast of countenance, and pain shall seize them, when they see that Son of Man sitting on the throne of his glory. And the kings and the mighty and all who possess the earth shall bless and glorify and extol him who rules over all, who was hidden for from the beginning. The Son of Man was hidden, and the Most High preserved him in the presence of his might, and revealed him to the elect. And the congregation of the elect and holy shall be sown, and all the elect shall stand before him on that day. And all the kings and the mighty and the exalted and those who rule the earth shall fall down before him on their faces, and worship and set their hope upon that Son of Man, and petition him and supplicate for mercy at his hands. Nevertheless, that Lord of spirits will so press them that they shall hastily go forth from his presence, and their faces shall be filled with shame, and the darkness grow deeper on their faces. And he will deliver them to the angels for punishment, to execute vengeance on them, because they have oppressed his children and his elect. And they shall be a spectacle for the righteous, and for his elect they shall rejoice over them, because the wrath of the Lord of spirits resteth upon them, and his sword is drunk with their blood. And the righteous and elect shall be saved on that day, and they shall never thenceforward see the face of the sinners and unrighteous. And the Lord of spirits will abide ever over them, and with that Son of Man shall they eat and lie down and rise up forever and ever. And the righteous and elect shall have risen from the earth, and cease to be of downcast countenance, and they shall have been clothed with garments of glory. And these shall be the garments of life from the Lord of spirits. And your garments shall not grow old, nor your glory pass away before the Lord of spirits.
Boy, amen. And in the
Amen,
context
yes.
of our opening segment, with what's going on in the world, you know,
Right.
I mean, even just this morning when I first woke up, the first thing when I woke up in the morning, I was praying. I'm like, God, you know, I know that you're long suffering and you're not willing that any should perish, but often I get frustrated in my flesh.
Right.
I get frustrated with how much he allows. And like, you know, like, was it Psalm 83? I think it is, Asaph, you know, how long do the wicked prosper? You know,
Right.
like, when are you going to stand up and, you know, do something about all this?
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
You know,
Right.
I mean, I find myself, and, you know, I feel apologetic because, you know, I don't want to be angry at God,
Right.
you know, but, you know, in my flesh, I'm, you know, and I believe we can be honest with God. He knows it anyway. It's not like he
Oh,
doesn't
yeah.
know. He doesn't like you. It's like he doesn't know it's not like he doesn't know what you're thinking.
Right.
So, you know, I was like, you know what, God, I'm already thinking, so I'm just going to say it. You know, what's the deal? Why, you know, and I get frustrated because there's so many innocent that are perishing at the hand of the wicked. And I was talking to some friend of mine last night, and he was just talking about the staggering number of children that go missing every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I forget what it was, but it was like, it's shocking.
Yeah.
And the horrors that, you know, these poor kids are having to go through for satanic ritual abuse and stuff like that. And you wonder what's going on. You know, we only got like, 5 minutes left, 6 minutes in the show. I don't want to open up a can of worms on the Q thing, but, you know, I'm kind of, you know, I'm kind of watching the whole Q thing at arm's length. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Like I'm aware of it. I get bits and pieces of it here and there, at least enough to know sort of what's going on, the gist of it anyway. I remain skeptical about it. There's a lot that I hear within the whole Q thing that, man, I wish is true or would prove to be true. And that, like, all this is going on right now. And meanwhile, what we're seeing in the news, but meanwhile, behind the scenes, hundreds or thousands of indictments and sealed envelopes and the swamp being drained, and we're going to come out, much better on the other side of all this. And, I mean, there's a lot of really good positive stuff. You think, okay, of course, it does make Trump out like he's some kind of massive savior and all this. But even in that scenario, I would remind people that he's just a tool.
Yes, right.
Some people think that he's a Cyrus that God put in place, and he's going to use him regardless. He's a flawed man like anybody else, and there may be truth to that. Maybe so. I mean, I can't imagine where we would be if some of the other psychopaths got into office instead.
Yeah, no doubt. Right.
Or do in the future. But I would caution people against creating an idol here.
Right.
And if this white hat stuff is true, then maybe we'll start to see some justice here on this earth. And that was my prayer this morning. I'm like, God, Father, please set the captives free and punish the wicked that are hurting the innocent. Like that was like so heavy on my heart this morning. And then here we are reading this. It's like, okay.
Right.
It's just like I told you in the story when I was praying the same thing, jogging that day. And I'm jogging and waiting out in the woods in the nature preserve, and it's a judgment day is coming.
I love that. Right?
What?
Yeah. I pray, that some of this happens. Certainly, some friends of mine believe heavily that all this is behind the scenes. I personally am skeptical, but I do pray that I would love to see justice being fulfilled in some manner, and them getting what they deserve, and that the children are protected, as far as all this pedophile rings and all that that's going on. But I know without a doubt that the Son of Man will in that day bring justice to everyone, just as it is stated in this particular text, and that all the kings then will be brought to their just deserves. And if it in some manner happens, before in some little way, that all that's bonus, and I'm all for it. But certainly I know that when he returns, and when every knee shall bow and every tongue confess, that certainly then they will receive what they reap.
Yeah, I watched this episode of SEALs. I don't know if you've ever seen that show. It's on CBS Access. It's about Navy SEALs.
I have seen it actually. I haven't seen a lot of it, but yeah, I know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hour-long dramatic series. It's not like a documentary, but it's a dramatic series. But in the episode that I watched, they were dealing with Mexican cartels, and they're trying to get to this one like kingpin. He's like the untouchable bad guy, and they got the second in command, and the second in command got shot, and Jason, the head of the SEALs, he's overseeing the mission, and they only had one pack of blood among the team, and he said to give it to this guy to help keep this guy alive because they need to get information out of him. And the team's like, but if any of us get hit, he's like, give it to him. If we don't get him, this is all for nothing. We got to take this guy down. Yeah. Anyway, the guy starts, declining. I mean, he was going to die anyway, and he's Catholic, and they're holed up in a Catholic church, and one of the other guys got killed, and the priest, as he was dying, ministered last rites. I don't believe in any of that, but the Catholics do, and that's a big deal to them. Get the last rites. Right. So he this other guy's watching as the police officer or the other Marine is getting the last rites, and he's like, priest, can you give me the last rites? And the SEAL team guy's like, no, you're not getting last rites. You tell me if you want the priest. You tell me, because he wouldn't give up the name. It was just interesting watching this guy, how his life is fading away, and he's willing to hold on. All he has to do is give a last deathbed confession
Right.
and he can get what he wants is last rites, which is, in their belief system, that's what's going to get you to heaven,
Right. That's what's going to
And
save
so
him. Yeah.
he's literally making the decision, like he's going to burn in hell for not giving up this name. And at the very end, he gives up the name, but right before he can get last rites, he dies.
Dies. Mm-hmm.
And so, I'm looking at that guy like, wow, what a picture right there.
Right. Right.
In that one episode, just, man, that some people, eternity's a long time, man,
Right. Mm-hmm. Hey, brother, it was a blessing and always a pleasure.
Likewise. Thanks, everybody.
Be blessed all. Shalom. Good night.